probably the best stand-up in the racket.
He's funny. Did I say that twice? Oh, good. Well, he is.
Here he is. Personal favorite of mine. This guy, among the new comedians, is young and gifted.
Very much. You look great. That's all we need, another bright new young comedian.
Good friend of mine, a wonderful comedian.
Please welcome my old buddy,
Tom Dreesen.
Tom Dreesen.
Tom Dreesen.
Tom Dreesen.
Here he is, Mr. Tom Dreesen.
Tom Dreesen.
And to this day, people say, "Who's Tom Dreesen?" It was a great start. I know who Tom Dreesen is, and I know who Joe Goal is.
I'm Joe Goal, and this is Who's Tom Dreesen on Who's Tom Dreesen. Tom, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Joey. As always, it's good to see you, and I had an exciting week. I hope you did too.
I did pretty good. You're a little sporty this week, though.
I try to dress like you're going to the White House. You know
there
what I
you
mean?
go. I love it. Right. It's getting a little chilly in Los Angeles this time of year.
Well, we're two Chicago boys, so chilly means it's dropped down to 78.
Right. However, I think since moving out here, I think my blood has gotten a little thin. Does that happen?
They say that. I don't know that to be true. How does your blood get thin? But I'll tell you, it's true that I grew up like you in Chicago, 40 below zero, sometimes wind chill factor 20 below zero, and it seems like I get colder now when it drops to 62 here
right.
than I did in Chicago when it was 10 or 20 below zero. I don't know why. Maybe it's your blood gets thinner. Maybe you're right. You know.
Maybe it's like a placebo effect where you think it's because when it's 40 degrees in Chicago, I wear shorts. I wear, it's like, oh, it's warm out. Summer's around the corner. Had a lot of good conversations last week. This week, though, I wanted to switch it up a little bit. I came prepared. This week.
Okay.
Actually, I know I'm usually prepared. As an actor, you always have to be prepared.
Yes.
But
by the way, as a Girl Scout too, I think it says "Be prepared." Is that the Boy Scouts or is that the Girl Scouts?
Prepared.
That's their motto. It says "Be prepared."
I know there was a song in The Lion King. Be prepared.
You didn't dub that voice, did you?
No, was I off key? Anyways, I came prepared, and I want to tell you a little backstory of why I came prepared.
Okay.
I had to do a presentation this week, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what it was for, but I had to do a presentation this week. And as you know, and as the people know if they've seen previous episodes, I've done comedy before and I've done things in front of audiences, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm comfortable on stage, right? And while I was doing a presentation, I thought back to third grade, and this is a true story, right? Third grade English class, I had to do a presentation on stage fright, okay? This is a true story, right? I had to do a presentation on stage fright and a whole 10-minute presentation on it, and I came to the conclusion, and I know you've said this before, that stage fright, public speaking, was the number one fear in the world. Death was second, right? Drowning was fourth or something.
Insurance companies did a survey around the world for like 8 years of the 10 fears of man.
Mm-hmm.
Death was fourth. Pain was second. Getting up in front of an audience was the number one fear of mankind.
As I presented in third grade. So I wanted to come here with a professional as yourself, Tom Dreesen, and I'm not taking off my pants. Don't worry, I'm getting my note cards out. Ooh. And I have 13 questions for you on public speaking. And these are based on, what should the speaker do? What do audiences want? Basically everything around public speaking. So let me know when you're ready.
Like Delta, I'm ready when you are.
Ready when I am? Cool. All right, first question. What do audiences really want and expect from teachers or speakers or comedians? If you need me to repeat it, I can repeat it.
No, I think what they expect is, first of all, you should put passion in your voice.
Mm-hmm.
Passion in your voice, whatever, I've heard some speakers that drone on and on and on, and they have a monotone voice that would almost go like na 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 na, and after a while the audience starts to doze. So whatever subject you're going to talk about, whether you're a teacher, a comedian, entertainer, whatever, put passion in your voice. If you come to talk about something, some passion. I call it like adding colors, to your talk.
Yeah.
Like the colors of the rainbow, and the end of your talk is the pot of gold.
Sure.
So, have you ever watched Evangelist I used to tell young comedians all the time, watch those evangelists, not so much for their content, but watch when they take you on a journey. It isn't monotone. They take you here and they went down the mountain and over home, and they take you on a journey. So put passion into it, and then make sure you have an ending.
Gotcha.
That's the pot of gold.
Yeah, I'm going to expand on that. So in acting, I love that you use the word colors, because when I teach actors that come into the self-tape studio about reading lines, I call them colors too. So if we were to say one line and it says, I went to the store today, but I didn't really feel so good about it. Those were two colors that I used, right? We went this way, and then we went another way. Another tip, and this is good acting advice for actors out there. If in a script you ever see, like, let's say it says like line, and then it says beat, right? It says beat, and then line. You always continue with the same tone, okay? So line, I don't want to go over here. Beat, no. It's a beat. If it says then, if it says line, then line, it's a different tone. So if it's but it's then.
They're teaching you to act as that character.
Correct.
And so therefore, those are things as an actor. So you're going to act that out. But as a public speaker, you're not an actor. You're
Correct.
being you.
Correct.
Candid Camera had a great line, caught in the act of being yourself.
Yeah.
And that's basically what is real good for speakers, to be yourself up there, if you
yeah.
can. But, I mean, that's good advice for acting.
Sure,
like
yeah.
you say.
I do like that. That did answer my question. Thank you. Second question. Are you ready for this one?
Yes.
Delta. Okay. What does the speaker hope to achieve?
That the audience is enlightened, that they walk away with more knowledge than they came in with. That they know now more than they did before. And for the comedian, it's to entertain them. If you're a teacher and a comedian, and you can do both. You can, you're a teacher and a comedian, you can enlighten and entertain. Bingo.
Yeah.
So that's what they learn more. They now know more than they did before.
Sure.
Now the comedian is a totally different story. The comedian, again, is to entertain them.
Right.
That they feel better
when
they walked out than they did when they walked in.
Huh.
So you want to, laughter is healing, and it makes you, that's another, we'll get into that later on.
Right.
But for the teacher, that they have more knowledge than they did before you spoke to them. And for the comedian, that they're entertained, and that that made them feel better than they did when they going out than they did coming in.
Sure. So when you went on stage, did you always have that in mind? Did you always want to, did you go out there with a goal saying, I want to leave the people with this? Did you go out there with that?
I went out there with, I sure hope I get paid for this.
Right.
No. Yeah, of course. Obviously, laughter. I mean, their laughter sets up my timing for my next jokes. So their laughter is very important to me. I came to entertain them.
But more, sorry, not to cut you off, but more a specific goal. Like, I know Rodney Dangerfield calls you the Catholic comic, right?
Yeah.
Did you want to leave people saying, like, that's the Catholic comic?
No, I did not. Rodney used to say to me, because earlier in my career, I did 61 appearances on the Tonight Show. On the earlier Tonight Shows, I talked a lot about going to Catholic school. I didn't live on that, but it was some of the jokes I did.
Sure.
Rodney said to me one time, "Yeah, hey Dreesen, you got the church going for you." You got the church going for you. But that's I forgot the question.
Do you want me to read it to you?
Yeah.
And what's the speaker hope to achieve?
Well, no, well, that's what I'm saying. The comedian, you hope to achieve their laughter, the sound of their laughter, and that they, first of all, they have to like you a little bit before they start laughing at you.
Right.
But that's what you want to leave them with, is that they walked out of there feeling better than they did when they walked in.
Yeah.
And that's that. Again, that's the goal of the stand-up comedian.
No, yeah, that answers that. Okay, third question. You ready for this one too?
Okay.
All right. Is there one word you can say to yourself before you go on stage? You can say to yourself.
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. Nothing can be achieved without enthusiasm. Nothing. Have fun, and the audience will have fun. Look at everyone from time to time. Look at everyone in the audience from time to time. the humor is the greatest gift that God can bestow on us.
Mhm.
You know, and I say that all the time. A sense of humor. A sense of humor is not when you have the ability to laugh at other shortcomings or misfortunes, when you have the ability to laugh at yourself.
Right.
So poke fun at yourself in your act as well, you know,
Mhm.
but enthusiasm is so important. If you're not enthusiastic, how do you expect them to be? If you're a teacher or a comedian.
Right.
And when I say that, because there's so many people in the corporate world that have to give talks and
Mhm.
speeches. There's people in colleges and high schools.
Mhm.
There's people right now probably listening saying, geez, I've got to give a talk next Friday.
Right.
You know, and if you're not schooled in the art of public speaking,
Mhm.
these are the things you need to know. Have fun, and the audience will have fun. I don't care what's going on inside.
Right.
Does every entertainer, go out there, humming, whistling Dixie? No.
Yeah.
A lot of times you get a little bit tight out there. You got a big crowd out there. There's a point you want to make, whatever it is. But if you're enthusiastic when you walk out there, and with a big smile on your face, and,
Right.
and you're enthusiastic about what you're saying,
Huh.
the audience gets caught up in that enthusiasm. You know?
Enthusiastic, huh? Interesting. All right,
That's a
moving-
good word. Just say to yourself, enthusiasm.
enthusiasm, and I think that works in any aspect of life.
Emerson said, nothing can be achieved without enthusiasm.
Without enthusiasm. Interesting. All right, moving on. Fourth question. If you are a teacher or a public speaker, when is the best time to use humor, specifically with teaching? And I know a lot of people have asked you this, so this is kind of why I wrote this one down.
Well, when to inject humor into your talk,
Mm-hmm.
if you're a teacher or something.
Again, if you're not a comedian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anytime you want to make a point, it's a good time to bring laughter into it.
Uh-huh.
A funny story that makes your point.
Sure.
That would really, really, really help. Start out even by saying to the audience, this is going to be a lot of fun. I've really been looking forward to this.
Huh.
When they hear that shows the enthusiasm, but also you're going to have fun.
Uh-huh.
This is going to be a lot of fun. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah.
You smile, and you smile at the audience. I'll tell you a story. When the comedy team first split up, Tim Reed and I were America's first black and white comedy team.
Mm-hmm.
When I went alone,
Mm-hmm.
and I was opening at Mr. Kelly's, it was the first time I was going to appear
Mhm.
in front of an audience by myself in Chicago at a club called Mr. Kelly's, where Tim and Tom had performed many times. In those days, critics came to the show. There were 7 newspapers in the Chicagoland area,
Mm-hmm.
both in the city, Chicago Sun-Times, Chicago Tribune, the Chicago Today, the Herald American, the Daily News, and newspapers in the suburbs. But they came, and the critics were in the audience. And so if you had to get good reviews.
Mm-hmm.
And my fear at that time was they're going to think Tom isn't funny without Tim.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm backstage, and I'm really getting a little bit nervous, and I'm waiting to go on. And it's Mr. Kelly's, which is now called Gibson Steakhouse in Chicago. But that kitchen still remains. And that was the entrance. You were in the kitchen before you went on stage.
Mm-hmm.
There was a black guy named Cleveland. We called him Cleve. He was a chef there. And Cleve and I used to always, when I was with the comedy team, Tim and Tom, we'd always banter back and forth before I went on stage,
Mm-hmm.
But this night, I'm a little tense because the press is all out there, the media is all out there, and I'm, oh boy. And the opening act, the singer had gotten off stage, and I'm thinking, oh boy, and the critics are out there. And I saw Cleveland come from the bathroom back into the kitchen, and he knew to leave the entertainers alone
Sure.
before they went on. But they were starting to introduce me now. I said, hey. He said, what you want? I said, did you wash your hands? He said, what for? I said, in my neighborhood, now they're starting to call my name. I said, in my neighborhood, they teach you when you pee that you have to wash your hands after it. He said, in my neighborhood, they teach you not to pee on your hands. And I started laughing. I'm laughing at what he said. And I walked to the stage with this big grin on my face.
All right.
I'm still laughing at what this, and this is the way I'm coming out to the audience. I'm like this laughing.
Yeah.
And the audience was smiling back at me.
Right.
I never forgot that.
Huh.
I've always entered the stage from that point on with that thought in mind.
Right.
With that big laugh, a big smile on your face.
I truly believe that going out there with, again, enthusiasm, smile on your face, because I think people in audiences, they want you to do well, right?
Oh, yeah.
They want you to do well. So I always have that in the back of my mind, too. Well, okay, so point using humor. Fifth question, what type of humor should be avoided now?
For the comedian, it's a personal choice. There's only one rule in comedy:
Mhm.
be funny.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only rule. Now, also, I mean, you have to think about. For the speaker, it's common sense. It's just common sense. No dark humor or sexual innuendos.
Right.
The key is know your audience.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, very important to know your audience. But for the comedian, you'll hear sometimes some terrible disaster happened, and it's too soon. It's just too soon, So the most important thing is, again, that one, when I say know your audience, if you're speaking to a high school group, if you're speaking to a college group, if you're speaking to people from your work, if you're speaking to perfect strangers, if you're speaking to a predominantly female or male audience, know your audience.
Right.
Oftentimes when I did corporate dates, I would say to the guy, I would ask the owner of the company or whoever hired me,
Right.
tell me more about your company. Tell me more about the age group of your company.
Right.
Tell me more about the political group of your company. Are they more Republican than Democrat? Are they more Democrat, Republican? Are they a political group, period?
Right.
Or are political jokes something they don't care? You would get.
Right.
So get to know your audience, and you can learn all that, sometimes prior to. As a comedian, sometimes you can't. Every night you go on stage, it's a different audience. Like in Vegas,
Sure.
2 shows would be totally different. But the other thing, too, is for the comedian, there's one rule. I keep repeating myself.
Sure.
But we learn by repetition. That's be funny. And for the speaker is common sense, just plain common sense.
Right. And I also think that, even when I told my story of my upbringing of, I did the impressions of the Indian guy at the store, the black one. First of all, I was 10 years old. And second of all, these were people around me. Like, this actually happened to me. Like, I actually knew his name was Fayez, this Indian guy at the 7-Eleven or the corner store, this black woman that my mom actually knew, right? And I have an uncle who's an Irish guy who walked out of a pub. It could happen, right, as you said. But these actually happened to me. So, again, when you talk about the Catholic thing or you growing up in a black neighborhood, that actually happened to you, correct?
Yeah. So, again, that's the comedian story. And even for the teacher, things that happen to you that have a ending,
Right.
have a lesson that you're going to learn
Right.
from this story.
Sure.
And again, use common sense. Stories about physically or mentally handicapped people.
Right.
That's not too smart.
Right.
Again, knowing your audience. Now, political humor. I've always thought about political humor.
This is big nowadays, so I did want you to hit on this.
Well,
yeah.
on political humor, I've seen. We know what's happening all around the country with comedians on late night talk shows and going political.
Right.
I always say, if you're going to go political, don't talk about the Democrats or the Republicans. How about just talking about politicians?
Right. Right.
I know a politician that now the left will think you're talking about someone on the right, and the right will think you're talking about someone else. But you can talk about politicians. If you choose to go that way, then go that way. There's no rule in comedy except be funny.
Right.
But I think I've always said this, and Johnny Carson said it for years. You're dividing your audience.
Right.
The nation is half on the left, half on the right. Did you come there to educate them on your politics and who you think they should vote for?
Right.
Or did you come there to make them laugh?
Right.
I came there to make them laugh. I want them to laugh. I want them to have a lot of fun.
Right.
I don't think they give a damn who I voted for
No.
or who I'm going to vote for.
No.
Now, if they wanted that, then they would say, why don't you go into politics and I'll come and hear your speech.
Yeah, right.
That's my story.
No, I love it. All right, so 6th question, we're going a different way. What is some advice you would give to a first-time speaker or even a comedian? So let's go with the speaker first. What first-time advice?
Well, you might want to try this out in front of your friends. Whatever it is you're going to do, try it out in front of your friends or family.
Sure, yeah.
Or if you're a teacher or with your faculty. And remember, when you're first time, every sentence has a beginning, a middle, and ending. Every speech has a beginning and a middle and ending. Know how much time you're supposed to do. If you're supposed to do 20 minutes or 25 minutes, and wisely sometimes tell the audience. They asked me to do a 15-minute talk here today. Now the audience relaxes knowing how long this is going to take. Or
Interesting.
Class, we're here for 30 minutes, and for the next 30 minutes, this is what I'm going to do. Now the class, everybody knows how much time you're supposed to be, and they can relax with that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and remember, you write a beginning, a middle, and an ending. And don't go way too long. I know even in comedy, if I'm sitting with 4 or 5 comedians and there's someone on stage and they're starting to tell a story, and we're comedians, we're listening, and there's this, if they keep going on and on and on, at some point we all start looking at each other because we're saying mentally, this better have one hell of an ending. You've now taken us this far. You better knock our socks off with that ending.
Right.
Yeah, So even with your talk, go over it over and over. Have a beginning, a middle, and an ending. How you want to take them home. What is
Yeah.
it you want to take them home with? Usually write that first.
Huh.
Oftentimes I write the ending first, and then I go to
And then
the,
you go to the setup.
opening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a beginning, a middle, and ending.
And you can relate to this because I know in one of the jokes that you do at the clubs every night, you say, I swear there's a punchline, just bear with me.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
know you know what joke I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So not only do you talk the talk, you walk the walk,
Uh-huh.
right? Right. All right, next question. What are the now essentials of a good story?
Well, the best stories are true stories.
Yeah.
The really best stories, if they really, really happen,
Uh-huh.
and you saw it, and you know that's the best stories.
Mhm.
A true story that either, if you're a teacher, a true story that has a lesson that you learn. You know, as I pointed out earlier.
Sure, yeah.
Or an apocryphal story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it didn't actually happen, but it could have happened.
Yeah.
You know, there's a great apocryphal story I once told on the Tonight Show many years ago,
Mhm.
1980 or something like that. Anyhow, but Billy Martin, baseball player for the New York Yankees, was a fiery guy. He kicked dirt on umpires when he was a manager.
Mm-hmm.
When he was a baseball player, he was a fiery guy.
Yeah.
They always talked about Billy got in barroom fights and everything, and he was just one of those high-tempered guys. And I knew Billy, and I liked him a lot. But anyhow, there was an apocryphal story that when he was playing baseball with the Yankees, that in the off season,
Mhm.
Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford always went hunting in the off season. And this is the apocryphal story. And I told this again, as I told you on the Tonight Show.
Mhm.
And Billy Martin, they asked him, Billy, why don't you come with us? We're going hunting. He said, no, I don't hunt. He was from Oakland or somewhere. And he said, I'm not a hunter. Come on, get in the off season, have some fun. So they took him down to Texas. And they got in a station wagon. They loaded up the car with guns. And driving, it was about 6 miles to where this farmer's land was, where Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford hunted every year. And when they got there, they told Billy, unload the guns. We got to go tell the farmer we're here and use his land. It's a formality. We do it every year. They went back, and the farmer was happy to see them. He said, yeah, sure. He said, guys, but could you do me a favor? He had like an old mule that had an abscessed leg, and it had to be destroyed. And the owner couldn't bring himself to do that. In those days, they would have to kill the mule. And he said to Billy, Billy's an old farm boy, would you mind killing the mule for me?
Uh-huh.
He's around the back. And Mickey said, I'll take care of that. They go back and they said, let's tell Billy a story. They said, hey, Billy, what do you believe? You got to put the guns back in the car. What for? He said, this guy, we used his land for 7 years. This time he said, no, we can't use it. Now we got to go back. But before we go back, we're going to fix him. We're going to kill his mule. They said they went around the back and Mickey Mantle shot the mule. Before they could stop Billy, he killed 2 cows. Now, that's an apocryphal story. But everybody who knows Billy Martin would say, he'd do that.
Right.
He would do that. So if you can make up a story, which I've done at roast many times,
Right.
you'd get all the guy's faults,
Right.
and then you would come up with something that he
Yeah.
would have done, but
Right.
he didn't do.
Right.
And if people would believe it as it. So
Right.
that's a good apocryphal story. That's my answer to that.
Gotcha. Not to completely digress here, but I hear Mickey Mantle was kind of a shotgun, wasn't he? Just like a wild guy.
Oh yeah, I don't know what shotgun meant, but Mickey was. It's a long story. He was a dear friend.
I was gonna say, do you have any quick or stories about Mickey
I got
that you can tell?
there's so many stories about him. I played a lot of golf with him. Frankie Avalon and I were under contract to the Claridge Hotel, and so was Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle had to bring in 4 times a year. Had to bring in high rollers.
Mickey did. Yeah.
Mickey did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he'd bring in high rollers, Texas oil guys and stuff, to the Claridge Hotel. And the first time that he was there, and I knew Mickey because I played golf with him and went to golf tournaments with him. The vice president of the hotel told me, Tommy, we're going to roast Mickey Mantle.
Mm-hmm.
And we want you to write the roast and be the master of ceremonies. And I said, okay. And he said, and we want a clean roast. My wife is going to bring in the women of the church auxiliary they're in Atlantic City. So I said, okay. And so they got... they got Ernie Banks, and they got Kyle Rote, and they got Roger Maris, and they got a whole panel of funny people and people that knew Mickey. And I said, I got to write Mickey's rebuttal. And he said, oh, no, we want this to be a surprise to Mickey. I said, I don't think you should surprise Mickey. He didn't know Mickey like I knew Mickey.
Right.
But I said, but he's got to rebut. He's, no, we don't need to rebut. We're going to honor him. Everybody's going to roast him and surprise him. And anyhow, so at 10 o'clock in the morning, at 10 o'clock in the morning, we're going to go play golf, and the roast is at night. At 10 o'clock in the morning, Mickey was drinking in those days. So Mickey was drinking pretty good. And this at 10 o'clock in the morning. So you can imagine what shape he was at 8 o'clock that night.
8 o'clock that night.
Anyhow, we're eating dinner, and he said to me, because he's sitting left of the podium, and I'm sitting right where the master of ceremonies is.
Right.
And he says to me, "Why are we eating in front of all these people?" I said, "Oh, well, this is the end of the tournament, and we've got to thank people." I don't want to tell him he's being roasted.
Right.
Anyhow, so now at the end of dinner, ladies and gentlemen, we got a surprise for you, and a big screen comes down, and there's a picture of Mickey Mantle, and it's the Mickey Mantle roast, and Mickey Mantle's going, "Oh, my." Well, meanwhile, twice during the dinner, Mickey had to go potty, so he got up and he went and peed in a plant on the stage with his back. The audience couldn't see what he was doing, but he peed in the plant on the stage.
No, he did not.
Yeah, he did. So you can imagine. First thing he does is, anyhow, Frankie Avalon gets up and he sings a song. Frankie's hit song was Venus.
Sure, yeah.
Venus, goddess of love that you are, surely the things I ask. We changed the lyrics to Mickey, king of SWAT that you are, and he's singing this funny song to Mickey. When Mickey gets up, after everybody speaks, Mickey gets up and he says, "How about that, Frankie? Yeah, it was really nice." He said, "Let me ask you something. You ever bang a net?"
No, that's the first thing he said.
Only he didn't use the word bang. He used the other word. Anyhow.
And this is in front of the
the people in the audience, and you hear silver falling on the floor and all this other clanging off it. And it went on to be, at the end of the night, I mean, he just, it got to be, it turned into a parking lot, as a matter of fact.
Oh, my gosh. Mickey, is that another pinch yourself moment where it's like, God, you're sitting next to Mickey Mantle?
Oh, Mickey was
one of the best baseball players of all time.
I played a lot of golf with him. At the end of his life, God rest his soul, he was such a good friend. And I met him, we were playing down in Barton Creek in Texas, and he came in the locker room. He had a drink. He had been diagnosed with cancer and everything, and he hadn't had a drink for 8 months. Yeah. And I saw him in the locker room. And the only time I ever saw him in my whole life was he was drinking.
Sure.
But he was in the locker room, and I said, "Mick, how you doing?" He said, "Tom, you won't believe it. I feel terrific." He said, "I don't miss it at all. I really don't miss it at all. I haven't had a drink in 8 months, and I don't miss it." He said, "I should have done this years ago." I said, "Mickey, the only thing I feared when I heard that you didn't drink anymore," he said, "What?" I said, "That you wouldn't remember me." He thought that was so funny. He went around the locker room, "Tommy, tell him what you just said. Listen to this."
Tell me what he said.
Yeah, because every time I saw him, he was drinking. I thought when he was sober, he wouldn't know who I was.
But Tom Dreesen, who are you? Oh, that's so great. Well, thank you for that mid-story. All right, moving on. This is our 8th question now. My 8th question. How do you make sure your audience is engaged and wants to see you again?
Well, first of all, always remember, it's a conversation, not a presentation. It's a conversation, not a presentation.
Yes.
It takes time to build a good act, or a good, whatever your teacher, or again, as his public speaker, it takes time to build that. But so it has to have, like, it flows from the beginning to the middle to the end. So be patient. Be patient when you're building this talk that you're gonna have. If you're a comedian, it's your act. If you're a speaker, this presentation. Take some time and make sure you got it. But now when you got it down, then rehearse it, and rehearse it till you can turn it into a conversation.
Yeah. Not
a presentation. Like, a presentation is this. This is my act, and I want to tell you all the things that I have rehearsed. And
right.
I have, I suppose, in other words, say, if you're saying, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight I have come to talk to you about Quaker Oats, the company I've been working for 20 years. Or you say, "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I've been looking forward to this night. I want to talk to you a little bit about the company I've worked for many years, Quaker Oats." Now it's a conversation. It's almost like this, Joey. You're married. Your wife's. You got 20 people over the house for dinner, and dinner's not ready yet. Your wife calls you and says, "Joey, dinner's not going to be ready for 20 minutes. Go tell them about when you were growing up and how you started out. You wanted to be a comedian. Go tell them some." Yeah. So you walk in the living room and you say, "Dinner's going to be ready in a few minutes, but I got to tell you, I was going to the grocery store this morning," and you start this conversation.
Right.
So it's that's the way your act has to look. That's the way your presentation has to look. Like you're just making it up.
That's a good point. Do you think, and this is a yes or no question, do you think there is a fine line between over rehearsing?
Yes, yeah, I suppose. It depends. You have to decide to yourself.
You understand what I'm saying?
I know exactly, because
right.
sometimes you can go over it, especially as an actor, you can go over it way too much,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But I think, and giving public speeches and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
you go over it enough till you feel comfortable that you could almost ad-lib it.
Yeah.
You know, now if it's a long, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have bullet point notes at your
Mhm.
podium or stuff like that. The comedian doesn't have that.
Yeah.
The comedian, you better have your material in your head.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you can, you know, it's doing it over and over and over again in front of a live audience. Doing it in front of the mirror is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start doing it in front of a live audience, the first time you do it, you'll say, gee, I forgot this, or I should have said that, I didn't remember this. Next time you do it, you'll remember that. But after a while, it becomes second nature to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I've gone on stage for an hour and 20 minutes and not, I mean, and I have a 90-minute show,
Mm-hmm.
you know, The Man Who Made Sinatra Laugh.
Yeah.
I've watched Jay Leno do 2 hours off the top of his head. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I watched it in Vegas. He did 2 hours in the Vegas show in a corporate date there.
Yeah.
And he was just fantastic, all
Yeah.
off the top of his head,
Yeah.
because it's been there for years.
Yeah.
And then when you know what you're going to do and you really know what you're going to do, you can ad-lib within the confines of that now.
Sure.
Now, because you know exactly where you're going, and something will come to you, and the audience will laugh, and you say, that reminds me, and you'll do another funny thing, because you know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
You know where the beginning is, the middle, and the ending is.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Which brings you back. We'll move on to our my ninth question here. What do audiences want from any teacher or speaker?
I think they want to know that you're having fun.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're uncomfortable up there, you know, you ever see somebody bombing, the audience squirming in their seats and everything? If you see somebody sweating up there and they're having a tough time, you know, then the audience takes on that, you know, because they vicariously put themselves in your place. Oh, what if that was me? Oh, gosh, I hope he's okay, or I hope she's okay. You know,
Yeah.
the audience, you're having fun.
Yeah.
You're having fun with, even if it isn't working sometime, but you're having fun with that.
Yeah.
You know, that you're saying this for the first time. You know, that you're doing it with passion and enthusiasm, even if you've done it 100 times before, with passion and enthusiasm.
Uh-huh.
You know, and again, I said it earlier, have fun, and the audience is having fun.
Yeah,
they want to know that you're having a good time with
for sure. Your energy kind of relates to the audiences.
Yes.
So, yeah. Longer one now, 10. What are some of the techniques you can use either live or I put on social media to get feedback from an audience?
You know, I think, repeat that question again.
Sure, yeah. What are some of the techniques you can use either live or on social media, I put social media, to get feedback from audiences?
You know, you've seen me do a couple of things with time when I was talking about the amen corner in church, and
Sure, yeah.
I say to the audience, can I get an amen? And they amen.
Amen.
That. Yeah. You know, or you can say, applaud if you agree with this.
Yeah.
You know, that, you know, all Italians are good looking. I just made it. No, but I mean,
sorry.
but that's getting them to respond to you.
Right.
They're getting them to respond to you, you know.
Right.
You know, and you know, also if on social media, you can put out something and then ask them, say, but I want your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree or you disagree with that? You know, let me know.
Yeah.
You know, so it's getting the audience to respond to what you're doing. When I open for Frank Sinatra, I'm going out in front of 20,000 people.
Right.
In these arenas, 20,000 people, you know, and now I've got to get their attention right away. Now the theater goes dark, and the orchestra in the pit, ba ba da da ba. People think Frank is coming out. They're going, oh, ladies and gentlemen, the Comedy Cyber Show, Tom Dreesen, and you hear, oh, you know. Now
You did not hear that.
So, but I've now got to bring the focus to me.
Right.
I've got to get their attention, right? So I didn't walk out and do my first joke. You know, I walked out and I'd say, how many of you out there, I want you to applaud. How many of you out there thought Frank Sinatra was coming out? Applaud. They applaud.
Everyone would applaud, yeah.
Say, I know just how you feel. I'm a little bit disappointed myself. Joke is on me.
Laugh, right.
But you see what I said to them? I said applaud.
Uh-huh.
Get them to react to me. Say something or get them to react to me.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And then I would say, how many of you people are in this beautiful arena for your first time? Applaud. People would applaud. I'd say, how many of you are seeing Frank Sinatra live your very first time? Applaud. They'd applaud. I'd say, how many of you aren't wearing any underwear? Applaud. You know,
Right.
so a throwaway joke.
Right.
my point is, I talk, you react. I'm bringing them in.
Right.
I'm bringing them in. Now the focus is on me.
Right.
And then after that, then you can go into my what I came there to talk about.
Right.
I can do my first joke. And what I would always do is write something about their local area.
Huh.
Whatever city I was in, Akron, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio,
Yeah.
Omaha, Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, Detroit, Chicago, wherever cities we're in, I
Right.
would always bring up something about that community. I'd write a joke about it. And
Right.
then I would go into my act.
Wow.
But first, get them to react to you. You can do that on social media. You can do it on, tell me what you think about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. God, that's incredible. So more about the audience. What is the toughest audience to perform for? Counter to that, what is the best?
Well, for the comedian, to me, it's outdoors. And for the reason for that is...
That's
is
the
when-
worst.
Yeah, the worst. When people are outdoors,
Mm-hmm.
and usually always standing, that
Mm-hmm.
even if they're seated outdoors, laughter is sound.
Mm-hmm.
It hits the ceiling and it comes at you,
Mm-hmm.
and you set your timing off of that. There's no ceiling outdoors.
Right.
So sometimes I've seen comedians that did real good and they didn't think they did good at all
Right.
because they didn't hear that laughter coming back at them. So
Mhm.
that's the toughest. Outdoors is the toughest. I used to have a trick I do. I did it at Millennium Park in Chicago. Outside, 15,000 people outside, and I had to get their attention. I was doing a show at that time with Frankie Avalon and Annette and
Mhm.
Bobby Rydell
Mm-hmm.
many years ago. But the crowd, I was supposed to get their attention and do some comedy, and they're all, people are standing, they talk, they just do it, so I would say, for all those who can hear the sound of my voice, please look at those around you who are talking and say with me, shh. Now, a lot of people would hear me, and I'd do it the second time. Now I deputize them. I got some people on my side.
Uh-huh.
I say, once again, all those who can hear the sound of my voice, please look at those around you who are talking and say with me, shh. And a hush would come over. Sometimes you take it 2 or 3 times, sometimes only once.
Mhm.
But you notice, now this is what's rude. Shh, quiet. Come on, be quiet out there. Shh. Hey, I'm trying to get... This isn't rude. Shh. It's
Yeah.
a nice, quiet thing.
Hmm.
And I've done that so many times in Chicago. A lot of the news anchors, a lot of people come up there and say, I use that every time I talk now in front of a
Wow.
That's and an outdoor crowd.
Mhm.
That's a good way to get a hold of them. Because now you're getting people who came, they want to hear you.
Sure.
And they're your deputies now. They're going, shh. And
Now
so
they're on your side.
the rest of the
too.
night, if it
Wow.
starts to go wild again, you go, once again, can we get a little shh? And the audience will help you with this, Now, that's the worst kind of audience to work. The best kind is a low ceiling.
Mm.
Again, it's sound is laughter. It hits the ceiling, comes at you. I set my timing off of their laughter.
Mhm.
Laughter is sound. Now, laughter goes like this, and then it comes down.
Mhm.
You never move on your next line when the laughter's on its way up. You just cut your laugh off.
All right.
With the comedy team, I had to learn that. Tim and I had to learn that. Tim could say something very funny, and if I said, oh, yeah, well, that's not my next line, I just stepped all over his laugh.
Sure. Yeah.
As an individual, you learn. When I explain to classes sometimes, I'll say, laughter, assume there's a pond of water there, and you got a rock, and you throw a rock high in the air, and as high as it goes, and then it slowly starts coming down, and it hits the pond, and when it hits the pond, it ripples all the way across the water.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that's laughter. When that's going up, I don't move there. Some nights, I move right here. Some nights, I move here.
Hmm.
Some nights, I move when it hits the pond. Some nights, I don't move my next line till it ripples all the way across. I can't tell you before I go out there I'm going to happen. The audience sets that for me.
All right.
That's how you, all of a sudden, you read the audience. And I know there's nights sometimes where I do a joke that always got a good laugh, but this night it got a huge laugh, a huge laugh. And I would let that pause go because I know it was still going up.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't cut off. I'd let it go and let it come all the way down till it rippled across the pond. Other nights, I do a joke that usually got a big laugh and it didn't.
Right.
Didn't get as big
Right.
a laugh as I thought it would.
Right.
And so again, but always when the laugh is on its way down.
Yeah. So it's about kind of reading an audience too.
Well, reading an audience is one thing, but
Sure.
we're talking about the technicalities.
Sure. Yeah.
That's why when I was under contract to 9 different hotels in Vegas in my career, I loved to work the Desert Inn, the Sands Hotel, the Riviera,
Mhm.
the Golden Nugget, the Tropicana. they had low ceilings.
I was gonna ask that. My next question is do you have a favorite comedy room?
Oh,
But, yeah.
in Vegas, it was the Desert Inn, the Sands Hotel. They had them small rooms. What I hated was the MGM Grand, Caesar's Palace. They had high ceilings.
Just the high ceilings,
And real
right?
high ceilings, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that was the long answer to a short question.
Sure. Yeah. No. And I thank you for it. Two more, and this one I think is really important. And a lot of people ask, a lot of comedians, how do you handle hecklers?
Well, first of all, when you get a heckler as a comedian, you got to qualify that heckler.
Mhm.
If you're, there's so many different scenarios, but if you're in a little small room,
Mm-hmm.
about 85 people,
Mm-hmm.
and he hollers out some stupid thing like, you did that joke last night, or
Yeah.
I don't think that's funny. Everybody in the room heard that,
Mm-hmm.
so you can respond to that.
Yeah.
Now, what I would do is I'd always repeat what they'd say back to the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it was of a short audience and everybody heard it, and I had a quick answer, I'd go right back at them.
Yeah.
You know, but most of the time I'd qualify them. It might be just a guy having a lot of fun.
Right.
And so for me to put him down or jump all over him,
Mm-hmm.
you know, he might be just having a good time, and the
Uh-huh.
audience starts to sympathize with him.
Right.
You know, so qualify. Now you'd say, "I'm sorry, sir. Was that something you?" Now he'd repeat it, and pretty soon you'd find out this guy's really a jerk,
Right.
or he's not.
Right.
If he's a nice guy, then you let it roll and you have some fun with him.
Mhm.
But if he's a jerk now, you establish him with the audience that he is a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
In a large audience, if a guy's heckling down front, the people in the back can't hear that.
Right.
So any funny, clever thing, you go right back at him. They didn't get it
They don't
because
get
they didn't
it.
hear what he said.
Right.
So always repeat what he said back to the microphone,
Mhm.
so they now hear it. And you'd set them up, and then you could nail them.
Right.
And now the audience is on your side.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but you first have to qualify that guy. Again, I'll give you a good example. One night I was at the improvisation years ago, trying out some new material for the Tonight Show, and it was like 1:00 in the morning. And I had a new set that I was working on, and there was not many people in the audience, maybe about 15, 17, 18 people in the audience, and they were kind of scattered.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just working on the rhythm of the jokes, and I knew it wasn't going to be a killer set that night, but
Yeah.
I want to see what they would react to. Anyhow, I would do a joke, and there was a guy in the darkness that would say something out loud that would be funnier than what I just said. And then I do another joke, and I couldn't see the guy. You'd have to get under the lights to see him.
Mhm.
I did another joke. I do a funny line, and he'd say something that got funnier.
Yeah.
And finally, him and I were going back and forth.
Yeah.
Finally, I mean, having fun.
Now
He
you're
was a
working
good
with
guy.
him, right? Yeah.
But I would say something funny. He'd say something funnier. But at one point, I said something funny. He said something funnier. And then I said the topper of the night. I topped his joke.
Yeah.
Got a huge, huge applause and laugh and everything. And I should have left the guy alone.
Ugh.
I stepped stage left, and I looked under the light. I couldn't see the guy who was in the shadows. I said, just between you and me, I won that one. And the crowd laughed. And from the darkness, he said, just between you and me, you needed it.
No.
Got the laugh of the night.
Oh,
Of the night.
my gosh.
Yeah. Anyhow, it was it was a lesson to be learned. He was a good guy. We had fun. Later
Right.
on, I honestly went outside. I said to him, "Are you a comedian?" No. I said, "No, you're a comedy writer." Because I was new. I'd get this guy to write
Sure.
for me.
Yeah.
He said, "No, I just like comedy." And he said, "I hope I didn't bother you." I said, "Oh, I loved it. I said, he lived. I remember he lived in Aurora, Colorado.
Huh.
That's all I remember. But I said, I gave him my card. I said, if you ever think of funny stuff, please send it to me. I'll buy jokes from you.
Yeah.
Because he was so smart. But I never heard from him.
You never heard from him,
Never
huh?
again. Yeah.
Wow. You know, I before my last question, even after all these years that I've known you, it's just such a. I mean, you're a master. You're a master at comedy and public speaking and I mean acting and everything. And it's just.
And let me tell you, the first time I ever had to get in front of an audience, I choked up.
Did you really?
I was in a civic group called the JCs,
Uh-huh.
and we had formed in Harvey, Illinois, a new JC group. There had been a JC group that fell by the wayside for like 5 years,
Mhm.
and we were reorganizing. And I was a new member. My brother talked me into it.
Mm-hmm.
And at a luncheon at the YMCA, all the other JC chapters came there that day, and somebody said, "We need someone to say the invocation." Now, I really didn't know what an invocation was. Just out of the service and everything.
Right.
And they said, "Oh, Tommy Dreesen can do that." And I said, "What did that?" They said, "We got to say a little prayer." I said, "Oh, I know a prayer.
Yeah.
Bless us, O Lord, for these I give,
It's
which
for
we're
we
about to receive."
Right.
Now, when it came time, the guy nodded. to give our invocation, Mr. Tom Dreesen. I'd never spoken in front of an audience before. I got up there and I go, bless us, our Lord, for these I give, bless the Lord for these I gifts of it. And I stumbled through the whole thing. When I got done, I was so embarrassed. So embarrassed. I said, I don't want to be like this. When the JCs had a program called Speak Up, and it taught you how to speak in front of an audience, and I went right into that program.
Did you? Good. Yeah.
A year later, I followed a congressman named Roman Paczynski, and I got a standing ovation.
No kidding.
A year later. I don't mean that as bragging. I'm saying, but that's how everybody who has stage fright when you first begin, there's ways you can work through it, but mostly by doing it. You know, in the JCs, you would get up and your first time you speak. Hi, my name is Tom Dreesen. Sit down. Next meeting, hi, I'm Tom Dreesen, and I sell life insurance. Sit down. The next time, hi, I'm Tom. You add something new each time.
Wow.
And it got you slowly in the habit of getting up in front of an audience and getting comfortable in front of a microphone.
Wow.
Anyhow, so that's my story about that.
Wow. And this is my final question here before we wrap it up. Your most profound advice you learned from other entertainers that you can pass on to new comedians or speakers?
Yeah. Well, I toured with Sammy Davis Jr. when I first after my first appearance on The Tonight Show. And I'd already been performing now for a long time with the comedy team and everything. And now I had never worked Las Vegas. And Sammy Davis Jr. was taking me into Las Vegas to open for him. We were working at the Mill Run Theater in Chicago, and he said to me, Tom, have you ever worked Las Vegas? I said, no. He said, well, you opened there in January with me, January 1977. Wow, I'm going to open at Caesar's Palace with Sammy Davis Jr. We're coming down the main strip, the jet landed, we're in a limousine, and they're putting my name on the marquee with Sammy Davis Jr. I mean, this is this awesome time. And a little bit overwhelming, too. Never been in Vegas before. Now, I go in there. In those days, they served food when the comedian was on. The hardest audience, I should have added that back before. The other hard audience is to try to do comedy in front of an audience eating. People either have to stop eating to laugh or stop laughing to eat.
Right.
This is what people do when they're eating and you're trying to make them laugh. This is their fork. You say something funny, they're going, They point the fork at you.
Oh my God.
That isn't laughter.
That's pointing.
So comedians bombed at Caesar's Palace. It's one of the hardest rooms to work because it's got a high seating. And second of all, the opening act, if you're a comedian, they're eating.
Yeah.
The waiters and waitress got to get that food ladder before the headliner comes out. Sammy knows this. The conductor, Nat Brandywine, the entertainment director, he said to me, Tommy, you'll do 20 minutes. Sammy does an hour and 10. We do 90-minute shows here. Sammy said, no, hold on, Nat. This is Tommy's first time here. All the critics are going to be there. If he scores, he's going to get booked back here in Las Vegas, even when I'm not using him.
Wow.
He said, so it's very important that Tommy scores tonight. He said, so I'll come out and I'll do 4 songs, 3 or 4 songs, whatever I feel like. When I feel the audience is ready, then I'll bring Tommy out.
Wow.
And then when Tommy's done, he said, Tommy, do what you want, 20, 25, whatever you feel like you got. He said, and I'll come out and I'll make up the rest of the time. Now, that's absolutely unheard of.
My
that
gosh.
A star of Sammy's nature would be opening for me, and my first time in Las Vegas, doing the setup for me. But he was so right. Now, so
what a good guy, too.
What a great guy. Meanwhile, I'll get to the point when he came out. But that afternoon, it's like 4:00, rehearsal's over for Sammy and everything, and I did a sound check. Now, no one's in the theater at all. I'm in my dressing room. I walk out on Caesar's Palace stage, big room, and I'm just walking the floor and just trying to get comfortable with the stage. And Sammy came out of his dressing room. He said, "You a little bit nervous, babe?" I said, "Wow, it's opening night. I've never worked Las Vegas before, and I'm opening for you,
right?
So yeah, I'm a little bit tight." He said, "See these boards on the stage here, Tommy? See these boards? You earned every one of these boards to get here." He said, "This is your stage. This is your stage. This is not their stage. If they could do what you do, they'd be up here. They can't do what you do. That's why they're out there.
Wow.
This is your stage. You own this stage."
Wow.
And so, that he said again, if you watch Sammy Davis Jr., he took command of that stage.
Right.
So anyhow, now I'm in the wings, and that was great advice to say. He gave me the advice. Said, "Look, you belong here.
Right.
It isn't like you said, this is our house, not their house.
Right. And that's your advice to everyone out there. That's your stage.
Yeah, but when he said that, this is our house.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you think of the place, I've never been here before, and that they've never been here before either.
Right.
But so you're thinking they belong here, something, and you're interfering. They're in our house. And when you take that concept in your mind, they're in our house, And, my advice is talk to them like they're in your living room. I've said it over and over again. It's a conversation, not a presentation. When I walked out in front of, first of all, by the way, Sammy sang 4 songs, and then this is how he introduced me. He said, ladies and gentlemen, meanwhile, when Sammy went out first, the waiters and waitresses went, what? They're taking food away from people who haven't even eaten yet. They got to get this food out of the room for the headliner.
Right.
When he got done, he said, ladies and gentlemen, you've been with me through the tough times. He said, I think of my audience as a family. And when people are good to you like that family, he said, you want to do something for them, like bring them a gift. I got a gift for you.
Wow.
I saw this kid and blah, blah, blah. He said, welcome, Tommy Dreesen. I'd walk out and I'd walk out. I'd say to the audience, I always dreamed that one day I'd work Las Vegas, and I dreamed it'd be Caesar's Palace, but I never dreamed that Sammy Davis Jr. would be my opening act. And now everybody start laughing, and Sammy would laugh in the wings and everything. But again, my advice is that put it in the frame of mind that they're in your house, and and you came to entertain them in your house. It's our house, not theirs.
Right.
Prepare. Everything has a beginning and beginning, a middle, and an ending. Once you know exactly where you're going, then you can ad-lib within the confines of that and make it look like it's a lot more fun. That's my advice.
Wow. Well, Tom, I truly appreciate you answering these questions. And like I said before, you're a true master, and I'm very thankful that I know you, and you can pass along this knowledge to everybody else. So,
well, that's what we did today. And if you've never spoken in front of an audience and you want to, try it. Just try it.
Yeah.
It's really very, very rewarding and a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to fail.
Right.
Don't be afraid if it doesn't work the first time or the second time or the third time. If you really want to do it.
Right.
If you really want to do it, you can do it.
Right.
You can do it. Again, it's how you put yourself in the frame of mind. Most people, and I'll close with this, most people, when they think of their public speaking, and I was one of them, if I had to speak on a Friday, on a Monday, I was already worrying about it.
Mm-hmm.
Most people, they think about what they're going to say, and they think, what if that doesn't work? Or what? And their hands start to sweat.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart starts to pound. Because the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between truth or fiction. It only knows what you program into it. So when you start seeing yourself failing, then your body reaction takes on like you're failing.
Mm-hmm.
Cancel all that. See yourself enjoying yourself out there. I'm going to have a lot of fun. I'm going to go out there. When the light hits me, I used to do this all the time. When I walk out and the light hits me, that light is like a tranquilizer. It's going to calm me. That light hits me, it's going to calm me.
Huh.
And people are in my house. Oh, look who's in my living room.
Wow.
I was going to have fun, and they were going to have a lot of fun. See yourself having fun when you're imagining doing your show. See yourself at working. See the audience responding, applauding. See yourself, seek the positive instead of the negative. And I'll close with this, which I'm always closing with something. But I would be on my way to the Tonight Show sometimes, and I'd be picturing, that joke. I don't know if that joke's going to work. My mind would flash on me out in the Tonight Show audience, and that joke not working. And again, your hands would sweat, your heart would start pounding. Cancel. I wouldn't say, that joke is not only going to work, it's going to get such a huge laugh that 500 people in the audience are going to give me a standing ovation, rush down to the stage, and carry me out on their shoulders out into the parking lot. Now you say, well, that's ridiculous. So's a negative thought.
Right.
Of course, that's a ridiculous thought, but so's a negative thought ridiculous.
Yeah.
So again, always envision yourself doing well, having fun, whenever you see yourself going out in front of an audience.
Yeah. Well, Tom, I thank you again. Make sure to follow, like, comment, subscribe. Who's Tom Dreesen? We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're on Spotify podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts, wherever else you can find us. And we will see you next time.
Yes, and I'm Tom Dreesen, and this is my good nephew, Joey Goal.